the 14th. That's the wrong one. Of 2022. All right, we'll get there. There's no rush. It is an extinction level event, but there's no rush. So what if we're all exterminated by nuclear fallout? That's the big deal. Live a little, Dana. I'm Dana Durnford, by the way. I'm also known as the nuclearproctologist.org. If you can't pronounce it, you can call and I'll teach it to you. 709-589-4406. No shame. 709-589-4406. I'm only telling you 500 more times. Let's get after it, shall we? We got a poll tonight, kind of articulates what we're going to talk about. Did Japan and IAEA fake the fuel pools recovered? They're supposed to be at, not of. Come on, Google. Reactor 3 and Reactor 4 at the Fukushima nuclear site, which is a no-go zone. Just the thought of going to Fukushima. Well, that's why there's no nuclear scientists who ever went there, right? Because the fuel rods were blown all over the place. Look at these demonic demons. This is Reactor 1. It was shot from about 30 kilometers away by a... I'm not sure what that camera's job actually is. I think it's a TV station, like a weather report area. But it was... They pointed it at Fukushima, because that makes sense. And cut this footage of Reactor 1 detonating. This is from 30 kilometers away. The buildings to your right are 190 feet tall. 190 feet straight up. So that's a significant detonation. Officials suggest that there's more footage of Reactor 3 explosion. I'm going to show it to you right now. The videos of the explosion are not allowed to be seen. That's the close-up ones, because they don't want you to see the fuel pool in the reactor core, which is this video here from 30 kilometers away. That's the actual fuel pool and the reactor core ejected from the buildings. And the fuel pools are full of multiple reactor cores. So when it comes to the poll, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? It's kind of a no-brainer. Bear with me. I don't know. We'll get there. Bear with me. Technical difficulties. There we go, we're back. All is good. So we got an overwhelming, a stunning, overwhelming 23 votes, 96% says yes, they faked the fuel pools, and turns out, sadly, that's true. I'm not sure why they would do it. I don't read minds, but I can guesstimate the entire nuclear core was ejected. The entire nuclear core. The entire nuclear core. Which is a lot of reactors by the sounds of it. And so the building is, again, we got to do this. I don't know what's going on there. The entire building was ejected. The interior, the guts of Reactor 3. I'm going to give you a picture of Reactor 3 to the left was that last explosion. And to the right, the reactor core. 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 And to the right And there's no video of Reactor 4 detonating, unfortunately. There's no video of Reactor 4 detonating. But as you can see from Reactor 4, this was a serious detonation, right? And that's Reactor 3 again. That's Reactor 3. Exploded. Okay, now today, I just want to touch on the story. We'll cover it more tomorrow. Tomorrow. Progress with Fukushima reconstruction highlighted at Conference of Parties 27. So they're pretending today that everything is normal and that never happened. No, that's true, I swear. I swear in Zoe's grave. I do. And we'll cover that tomorrow. There was an earthquake today. I'll get to that in a little bit. Officials admit, though, that there was a deadly Fukushima meltdown cover-up. How are they going to cover up that? We lied about the meltdowns. Too bad. Sucks to be planet Earth. It was a cover-up, stupid. It's a grave issue. It's an unprecedented nuclear disaster. About as bad as it can get. Hard cases. My goodness. It was so bad, 16,000 workers said, stick it, shove it up your... There's 865,000 cancers in 2012, extra cancers. Got nothing to do with Fukushima, Dana. It's got to do with bananas and potato chips and walking in the sunshine, Dana. It's quite the coincidence, you get almost an extra million cancers in the first year after the alleged fuel pools blew up. We got a wild amount of pictures to get through tonight. We'll get through it. Lots of great documentation. And the problem with the equation is you can't really rush it. Yum. Let's get my big head in here. So they got Reactor 3 and 4, and they got the Kevlar took off Reactor 1 over in the corner. This is right after the tsunami. This is the water pumping area. It needs 1 million gallons a minute, 4,500 tons, or it goes boom. Kind of like the videos of it going boom. I would love to see the video of Reactor 4 detonating. That's the one up there in the corner. Reactor 2 is right here. Those panels, the framing that, you see the frame of the building? Well, the ones that are, you can actually turn in a large SUV around on the pillars if they're laid down, right? That's how big those pillars actually are. These panels are meant to blow away. These are 190-foot buildings. So that's 4 reactors and 8 fuel pools that we can prove melted down. But they managed to cover it up. It wasn't really hard. They own the universities and the medias. So this is pieces of one of the reactors. You can actually see the pipes that carried a massive amount of water torn apart behind it. Not that that mattered because the pumps were torn apart, but you can see damage to the pipe. The reactors will melt down quite quickly if that happens. The explosion is caused by hydrogen from the meltdown itself. This is right after The water had started to recede. It's not all receded yet. It's a stunning picture. So reactor 4, this is just one side of it. And reactor 3, well, it doesn't matter because there's only a stump left, right? So you can see, looking at the building, there's nothing functional. See the damage right there and the guts hanging out. And there is nothing functional there, right? It's the same thing for reactor 3. And they're not 190 feet tall anymore. So what they did is made them 190 feet tall. This was meant to manipulate the population, and they had the blessings and the help of the world's media, and the universities participated in the DC. So it's a fun story, right? You know, it's like Halloween or something. And they built a structure off-site. They brought it in, assembled it with cranes. They're hauled together by gravity. And then they put these panels. These panels are just single sheets where they just swing it in and lay it down, and it's got hooks. And then it's so heavy, it just holds itself into place. So this is originally after the building started blowing up and catching fire and blowing up and blowing up and catching fire. I got no idea what this is, but we're going to play it because why not? It's there. Oh yeah, that's reactor 3 detonating. So the buildings are 190 feet tall, 200, 400, 600, 800, 1200, 1400. That's slow motion. So it actually ejects the reactor core, which cuts through the fuel pools also, and detonates. The fuel pools are got decades of reactor cores. So you're looking at probably close to 10 reactor cores, and all of them are about 4 times the size of Chernobyl. Just downplay it, right? But the problem was it's pure uranium, pure plutonium, whereas Chernobyl was mostly graphite, which is horrible, don't get me wrong, but it's not pure uranium, pure plutonium fission products. That's the remains before they stumped it. It's still not really stumped. And what I mean stumped is, now you're going to see this weird looking truck to the right. So what they're going to do is they're going to pretend the building is normal and that they're taking the cast in the back of the truck out of the bottom of the building, which is it's Mach's fuel reactor melting down. Reactor 4. Wow, I almost lost a lung that time. It's okay, I got 2 of them. I'll be fine. I'll be just fine. Now, they're claiming this is 2014. But the control room, that's quite a long ways away, they couldn't get into that for 7 years. So I don't know who to believe. Is that real? Is that real? Is this real? And you can't really see it, but the numbers, the information on the side of it is actually pixelated. You can't actually read it right here. And there's another one up there. Sometimes we'll cover it in detail, but you got to appreciate how much junk, not junk, but documentation. So, the people in the paper suits, they allegedly burned 7,000 of these paper suits in the on-site incinerators every day. And paper suits can't protect you. Even if they were Kevlar, they can't protect you. Unless they're 4 feet thick, maybe. So that's the stump of reactor 4. That's another side of it. I apologize if I start hacking a little bit. Behind Nipperhead, there's Head in their paper suits. These are probably homeless, right? They probably all died that week. See where my finger is pointed? You can see it gouged out of the stump of reactor 4. That's not very far off the ground. That's only about 14 feet. The bottom of that, right, is off the ground. well, the steel plates, because otherwise you die. These are 12 by 16 foot steel plates, and they're on top of lead plates the same width, and then they're on top of steel plates, and that's on top of cement, and then pavement, and a couple of layers of that, and then they use lead and steel and lead and steel. But you can't physically work there. That's a lethal dose. You had around 10 reactor cores in the 2 fuel pools, and the reactor of number 4 was half empty, because you don't actually take all the fuel out of the reactor core when you're changing it. You move the fuel around 50% or so, and 50% of it goes into the fuel pools that were at the top of the building. We don't have any videos anywhere on the entire planet of reactor 4 detonating. Quite the coincidence, you would think, when they had plenty of time to use cameras before this blew up. Say they had days before it blew up, and so they would have had around 90 cameras pointed at these buildings. We've never seen footage. It's a bizarre story because that shouldn't be able to happen. I knew I was missing something. I gotta pinch off my headphone cord, otherwise I gotta hang on to it with one hand, and it's weird anyway. Okay, so again, this can't protect you at a nuclear meltdown within a couple of thousand feet. Well, period. Anywhere on site, really, that can't protect you. And these suits that sometimes are, what the hell is it? Who cares? These suits are not thick enough, right, to shield you from gamma shines, X-rays, and neutrons. And so you can see how much damage is all the way almost to the ground when you actually, if you're going to be honest, right? Okay, so that was a 190-foot building. So if you go up from that, you got 20 foot of wreckage. Because there's only wreckage. There's nothing functional. Everything is stripped, torn apart, like a 100-foot tsunami came through there. Oh, which, by the way, that's actually what happened. So they built this structure alongside of, now it doesn't physically touch reactor 4, which is the stump of reactor 4 that remains. I just showed you higher quality pictures, right? Anybody in that suits getting their picture taken are disposable. That's what, like remember I showed you a headline earlier, 16,000 people ran away from this site. It's there's so many different directions that I could go to, but we're talking about the fuel pools, so stay with me. Okay, they got another victim walking past multiple nuclear reactors melt down in their paper suits. So the buildings don't physically touch each other. Look above it. Now the idea is to manipulate you into thinking that inside of this structure is this fuel pool. This is TEPCO's double picture, not mine, by the way. But all they done was put these panels. So they built this steel structure because inside, this is what it normally would look like inside of these boiling water reactors. But there's nothing there. You can't physically go up there and stand up. Everything is done by gravity and cranes, okay? Don't worry, I'll tell you again and again. You'll get there. So the building doesn't, the frame doesn't physically touch the other building. But in 2014, this is allegedly, right, they put cover panels around it and then claimed to look like that. So we got a poll tonight about that. Did Japan and the IAEA fake the fuel pool recovery of reactors 3 and reactor 4 at the Fukushima nuclear site? And we got a stunning 95% says, yeah, I guess they actually did. I know. It's a terrible story, but let's walk you through it. How's everybody doing? La 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 la. Okay. Now, we're going to cover that. I got a whole section. Well, we got to keep going because we got around 600 clicks to get through. They're pictures, so. But this cracks me up. And when they originally came out, all the world's media came out at the same time. And we're showing this, and they're getting the fuel out of Reactor 3. And I was like, stomp, stomp, stomp. Because all that's left of Reactor 3 is the stump. It's the same as Reactor 4 configuration. It would have had 2 fuel pools at the top. Now, one of them is supposed to be a transient pool, but because they don't have a repository anywhere in the planet, let alone bizarre lands, Japan. I say that because the people haven't stood up and tried to right a terrible wrong being perpetrated across the entire planet and species. So this is the stump of Reactor 3 before they leveled it and made it look like that. So stump this is TEPCO's picture, which is not a decommission authority, shouldn't be in charge. Actually went bankrupt and was nationalized by the Nippers government over in Japan. So Reactor 3, what they done the same thing as Reactor 4. They built a structure off-site, brought it in. It doesn't physically touch the stump of Reactor 3. It's 170 feet high, and we got lots of that coming up. Doomsday-like radiation release if fire in the pool at Unit 4. And it'll be a global catastrophe, all right. It already has been, but it would dwarf what has already happened. Really? Because that's what it looked like when he was making that statement. The fuel pools are up at about 170 feet in the building. Does that look like a 170-foot building? And what they got is decades of reactor cores. We found them. And there they are. This is 19 days later right here, covering the entire planet. This is the Norwegian Institute for Air Research. There was a modeling of 1 million becquerels a square meter of, what was that? Xenon-133, I believe, which decays to cesium. This is a model from TEPCO of Neptunium-239, which decays to plutonium-239. Rain with 20 million, this was a study of actual physical particles. So if you find, and they did, 20 million particles of radioactive iodine-131 per liter, sustained, by the way, this is catastrophic numbers because it's 10 times more 132, 30 times more 133 iodine, 31 times more iodine 129, which another study out of Ottawa, Canada, showed us. This is oh shit numbers, actually, right? And there's that was supposed to be a plutonium model, Dina. Get it together. I apologize. Hang on, I get that model. I can't believe I forgot to get the model. How could you be that stupid, Dana? Hey, give us a break. I'm busy. Plutonium-239 dispersal from TEPCO's data. Frightening, right? Okay, so the 131 first would have been 10 times more 132 and 30 times more 133. They got a short half-life, 30 days, say, right? Which is plenty of time to infest and cause the atomic plague. Now, they're not going to be the only ones, right? But the problem with this is 131 is extremely effective at ionizing and radiating the thyroid glands of insects and birds and mammals and animals, and particularly babies and children and school children and university students. And then what happens is your body will normally take this stuff that's man-made and turn it into radioactive hormones, and you're going to have a host of up to 1,800 diseases and illnesses coming at you. So something's going to manifest quite quickly. Cancer is usually latent, but in these numbers, the insects and birds and animals couldn't cope with it. So there was 10 times more 132 and 30 times more 133, and they ionize and radiate the thyroid glands of the species and humans, of course, 9 times more effective than the vicious 131 does. So there should have been 31 times more 13029, and that's got a 15 million year half-life. They say, oh, well, it only pulses this far. Oh, you mean far enough to cut up my DNA and chromosomes for 15 million years? I know what you're saying. There won't be no DNA of Dana left in 15 million years, which is a good thing because this stuff lasts 15 million years. Here's a model, before we get back into the pictures, of France's fallout prediction, which turned out viciously to be under accurate. It was infinitely worse, but this is 16 days. It covers the planet with radioactive fallout. So that's where the fuel pools are. See, you're looking at the fuel pools. Now normally we're at the top of the building in those two pools, and this is way above ground, the bottom of the reactor. This is the top of the reactor, way above ground. And there's people actually out there claiming it's under the ground. Crazy people these days, tell you what. This is the stump. This cracks me up. This is the stump. They put this, they're building the structure around it to hold the top, right? But look at everything up here. Big holes in the buildings. We're going to take you into detail of that. There's nothing left. That's the stump of Reactor 3, the ghost of Reactor 3. The fuel pools would have been at the very top of the building, and that would have been stuffed full of reactor cores because you don't have a repository. So when you look at that picture over there, it's pretty obvious the top of the building, and which is where the reactor core is, are gone. Now I'll explain to you why that's important, because it's actually pretty important. It's important. Hello, everybody. Did Japan and the IAEA fake the fuel pool's recovery of Reactor 3 and 4 at the Fukushima nuclear site? And we got a 95% already, 40 votes. Hey, calm down, Charlie. So I've done research expeditions. To your left is pre-Fukushima. To your right is going back year after year and visiting the same sites. The species to your left didn't come back. I'm only going to feed you 5 pictures tonight. But if you go to my site, The Nuclear Proctologist, one of these days, you can see all of those pictures on the very first page. Scroll down a little tiny bit, click on any picture and it'll expand. And download it, make a little book of it and say, look kids, that's what the world looked like pre-Fukushima. Make copies and give it to your doctor's offices, and engineering companies and stuff like that. This is one side of Reactor 4. You can see it's leveled all the way to the floor. So even if the other 3 sides were perfect, which they're not, the building... So they put this here to trick you. This is a cement truck. Cement trucks don't pump water very good, by the way. So when you look at the bottom of it, say you own the building. Yep, that's my baby right there. Hey, wait a second. Looks like a bit of paint is chipping off. I don't know, a bit of paint on it, that'll be fine. So if I tried to sell you that, it's like, come on, it's a good deal. All it needs a bit of paint, big baby. Remember those pillars right there, that one going across, for instance, you can actually spin a SUV around on it. This is a 190-foot building, a 19-story building. Think of a 19-story apartment building. You can see the stump of reactor 3 up there in the corner. Hello, darkness, my old friend. And so look at the big gaping holes through the building. They're putting the fake covering. So reactor 4, that was reactor 3 I just showed you, by the way. Reactor 4 was some serious damage. Now they want you to believe the fuel pools got removed in 2014. And of course this is poppycocky or whatever you want to call it, nonsense. We're just concentrating on 3 and 4 tonight. It's like taking a little model of this building and putting it in your barbecue and leaving it on for a couple of days. That's what's left. Every time I see a picture like that, I'm not laughing. That's fear. If I was there, I'd be running the other direction. Most likely Photoshop, because there's no reason to go near these buildings. You're going to end up getting a lethal dose that moment you get close to it. It's just like, it's impossible. That's why people don't go there. Only the homeless are invincible. You can't hurt them, apparently. No nuclear scientist has ever went there. So again, this is another view of the fake structure that they put around reactor 4. I'm not sure if that's reactor 4, but that is. Again, you see the debris on the roof down there? It's interesting they never cleaned that up, isn't it? Isn't that amazing? See the debris on the structures? See all that debris there and all this debris right there? And because nobody can physically get up there and walk on right on that edge here. There's zero. Once you put a cover, if you had your barbecue and it's smoking right crazy and you took your little barbecue, you put it in your little shed and closed the door and left it there for 11 years, burning away, it kept opening up, throwing more stuff in there, closed the door. What's going to happen to the structure around it? They're crazies. And so, see the debris, you can see the holes, the carnage. Remember, this doesn't physically touch the other building. It was designed specifically to manipulate you and deceive the entire planet and perpetrated by the media worldwide, these fake pictures. And the media even claimed they're on top of the reactor pool and everything is good. This is not supposed to happen, someone saying stuff like that, right? That's never supposed to happen on TV. Not even in Hollywood, that's not supposed to happen. So they physically don't touch each other. So let's go to 2013, August the 20th. They claim they had 1,000 tanks. Guess how many tanks they got 9 years later? Yeah, if you said 1,000 tanks, you win. First prize. First prize is 5 buckets of horse shit. You got to bring your own lids. Japan proposes more steps to control. Now they're claiming, November the 7th, 2000 CE. Remember November. Members of the media, the heroes, they're all like Spider-Man and the Hulk anyway, right? And Tokyo Electric Power Company employees, that's a bigger lie than media, walked down the steps of a fuel handling machine after looking at the spent fuel pool inside the building housing the Unit 4 reactor. Well, holy shit, they're inside of that building and it looks that good. Well, nothing to worry about here. Time to go back to sleep. But that's November 2013. The media, and lots of them, not just one of them, but lots of them, because they love you so much. They're to make sure you're safe with their paper suits on. The TEPCO burns 7,000 of these paper suits every day. That's them, not me, folks. So they're inside of that building and everything is perfect. So shut up, fear-mongering. Dana. Mom, Dana's fear-mongering. They're not at Fukushima, by the way. They're nowhere near Japan. There's 70 reactors just like it in the United States. They're not going to travel to Japan and pretend they're... Right? This is done... And the media, I'll show you some of it coming up. I got a really good setup for everybody tonight of the perps, just for a bit of fun, not like a bit of drama. So let's check the poll in a second. Wait, no, I got to get this. There you go. That's the perfect picture right there. Some hard cases, huh? No. That's what it looks like, Dana. So stop lying. Nuclear scientists all over the world are in their basement sucking their thumb as we speak right now because I'm showing this. Needs a Coca-Cola banner on the side. Sponsored by Coca-Cola. On the back of all the homeless. That's just wrong, man. That's just wrong. In the right way, of course. Ay. And so, if you want to die, get in a helicopter, go out and land on the roof of that for a couple of seconds. You don't have to go inside, just land on the roof of it. And that's it for you, baby. Yeah, sure looks perfect to me. I can't see no friggin' flaws with it, Dana. Look totally normal. I don't know what the big whoop is. It's one of my favorite pictures, actually. You got a remote control pincher up there on the stump, remember? And in the background is actually the reactor lid, the reactor part of the reactor core. The other part should have been over here somewhere. It was blown apart. These things, the lid on it is 700,000 pounds or something, for Christ's sakes. Excuse the language, my apologies. This is an unusual backside picture of Reactor 4 and Reactor 3. We got quite a few of them coming up. I got to start moving here. We got a lot to get through. Start picking up the pace. Normally, you kind of like to be able to walk everybody through each picture, but because we got absurdness, which is just a fraction of what I actually got. So there's another angle of Reactor 4 and another angle. I got a combination of all four sides, but I don't know if I got it in this particular list tonight. That's a lethal dose to be anywhere there. Crazy, great kooky industry. That's nuclear. You got to give them credit for madness, to pretend that everything is normal. Because inside of that building, that's what they're saying it looked like in 2013. Like, there's nothing left of the building, actually. And this is what it looked like in 2013. There was nothing left. So all the world's media came out and ran this story in 2013. Yeah, no, we can't get into the control room a few hundred feet away, but we're in the reactor itself. Everything is score, man. Now, come on, give me my check. Tattoo guy. So imagine this was your 190-foot building, and you got a text message with these pictures. It said, hey, I had a little bit of an issue there at your building. We can hire the EDF and Rosatom from Russia and get them to try to fix it if you like. They figure around $10 billion in 10 years they can replace it. Not there, of course, but somewhere far, far away. Debris from the nuclear multiple fuel pools, 8 fuel pools and 4 reactor cores are being ground up and burned in other parts of Japan because That makes sense. Never-ending disaster at Fukushima. Japan is stumbling helplessly from one crisis to the next. No, the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society and the immigrants who don't speak the language are, but TEPCO's not. And Japan's government definitely is not going to go there. In the background, you can see everything is cemented. There was a video came out today that's never been seen, released before. They chopped it up. It's only about 50 seconds long. I'm going to bring it up and play it because it's from a helicopter and it's chopped up. But if you can spot the background of these places, you'll see what it used to look like, right? So here we go. Let's bring that up. Anytime you're ready, get your head out of there, Dana. So this showed up today. This is the first time they released this footage. And let me do that again, and here we'll start over in a second once that disappears. That kind of threw me off too, so. There's a shitty job, man, right there. See the background is plants and gravel and everything is cemented now because when they blew up, they threw the fuel rods and fuel from the fuel pools and reactor cores all over the place. So the water's still draining. Wow. I didn't realize that. That's a shitty job right there, man. You are getting... All 600 helicopter pilots in Chernobyl died, right? Wow. Crazy stuff, mister. That just showed up today, so why not? Let's get on with it. So this picture showed up a few years ago on a Japanese newspaper. And something changed a couple of weeks later. You could no longer download any pictures from Japanese media. But this picture was such high quality. I had already showed you lots of zooms. I'll show you more coming up here. From this single picture, and you were able to extrapolate a serious, significant amount of documentation by zooming in. And so you can see the stump. They built this walls around it. This contraption was built off-site. There's zero this is Reactor 3 mixed oxide fuel reactor. And over there is the ghost of Reactor 4. So they're pretending with this structure, this is a 170 feet high structure, by the way, that they're above the fuel pools and everything is hunky-dory. So they built that structure around this stump. And it looks like that. Once you start realizing they got these pieces there to fill in the gap where it blew apart. That's all they actually are. It was a total firecracker. The fuel pools, reactor cores, and I showed you the videos at the very start, right? But this was such a high quality picture. When you're zooming in, it wasn't taken 30 kilometers away like a lot of the other stuff, right? All of a sudden now you've got serious footage, and you already know it's only a stump, the same as Reactor 4. And they didn't clean up that debris because you can imagine what kind of lethal dose that actually is. And all of this, you're able to zoom in on each building and get this absurd amount of detail. We've never seen such a high quality picture after. And it's just a single picture. It's incredibly significant. So yeah, they're doing everything with remote control cranes, and they build a wall to hold this is TEPCO's picture, the bizarre cover story, basically, is the only thing you can call it, really. There's another weird angle. That's something you're always looking for, is these weird angles, because if you can get a 360, which is so difficult of anything on this site. As you see the video, how he chopped it up to make sure you couldn't see anything significant in the background. And this shot from the ocean side, they're actually on the water when that picture was taken. You can see the stump of Reactor 3 up there. So it's Reactor 1, Reactor 2, the stump of Reactor 3, and the remains of Reactor 4. Those stacks are what they use to vent from the fuel pools and the incinerator that's by Reactor 4. Yeah, wrap your mind around it. They actually got incinerators at all nuclear power plants, folks. It's absurd. It's an absurd part of the story. But those stacks are so radioactive you can't get near them even today. So how bad are the reactors when you can't even get close to the stacks, which are around 25 sieverts by the ground? It's instant death for you. That you're not living. If you ran past it, if you drove past it on a bicycle, it'll kill you that day. Again, so you got this stump. You built this structure on top of it to mimic where the reactor fuel pools would be at the very top of them. 2 pools, and because you don't have a repository, they're stuck while they work. But they can't get into the control room. It took 7 years to get into that. But after 3 years, in November, they were inside of this wreckage, inside of this little piece of metal that looks like that. That's a pretty good lie. That takes a real set of balls to tell a lie like that. We got a poll, a P-O-L-L poll. Did Japan and the International Atomic Energy Agency fake the fuel pool's recovery of Reactor 3 and Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant? According to Ernie Gunnarsson, he made the RAX 40 assemblies in the fuel pool, and he doesn't know they're gone.
Now, the division I ran built nuclear fuel racks for boiling water reactors exactly like Fukushima. And
Unit 4 has always been my biggest concern. If you watched our website, on the very first week of the accident, I was saying that if Unit 4 were to catch fire, you'd have to evacuate Tokyo.
If Unit 4 catches fire, you have to evacuate Tokyo. Now, what's the odds that Arnie, who made the racks for around 70 reactors exactly like Fukushima, doesn't know the building looks like this? What is that odd, I wonder? If you went to a Las Vegas and asked for the betting odds, what do you think they would say? When Arnie looked at that, he said, well, the fuel pool's gone. That's what he actually said. What do you want me to do? I'll get on TV, I'll do it. And he did. We covered it many times. How can you not know the difference? How does that actually work? Well, the only way you can, if you publicly claim that it looks like that, you're a lawyer. Your job is to murder all the species so you can get a paycheck on Fridays from the nuclear industry. And the children and humanity be damned. I can't do that, right? It actually looks like that. Trust me. But let me give you some more evidence, just in case you're on a fence. For God's sakes, don't fall while you're watching this and sue me. So which one is the real one? I can't tell the difference. There's people out there. No, that can't be possible. Do you think there really could be people out there that don't know the difference? They're like, no, it looks pretty good to me, Dana. I don't know what the big whoop is about. How about this picture here? What do you think all the people, you got to realize that the editors, the owners, the videographers, the newscasts, the makeup artists, everybody at CBS had to participate in that live for Seth Doan, a senator's son no less, to put out a video on TV and claim he's on top of Reactor 4 to your left. Everybody at BBC, several thousand people, would have seen Rupert Winfield Hayes claiming he's in the fuel pool on top, and he's on top of the building to the left, which they knew was not true. The editors, producers, everybody had to participate in that live for that to work. And same thing for CNN, same thing for ABC. And Cecilia Vega is now part of the Pentagon Press Club, right? So this is just a fraction of them. She's now with the Pentagon, or the White House rather, Press Club. And the ballroom dances and everything else that comes with it. Seth Dorn is the senator's son. Rupert Winfield Hayes is one of the star reporters for BBC. And Anna Cohen is a superstar for CNN. And so all of these people pretending they're in a building that actually doesn't exist kind of boggles the mind. That takes some serious bahulas. You got to have a real set of guts to come out on TV and pretend on TV that you're at the Fukushima fuel pool, which doesn't even exist anymore. And everything is good. So go back to sleep. Here's CNN claiming everything is good.
We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011, leading to the country's worst nuclear disaster.
That's crazy stuff. And so when asked about that, Helen Caldicott said,
the Japanese are very tidy people, and they have, by robot control and by human beings, removed the debris from the top of Building 4, and it does look pristine.
Wow. So here's Helen Caldicott, one of the biggest anti-nuclear activists, with 14 anti-nuclear books, saying, Dana, that looks like the picture to the left. Yeah, but what about the picture to the right, though? That's all I'm saying. So I'm actually at Unit 4. This is Unit 4. Now I'm going to show you a video of CNN claiming they're inside of this building. Now if you go inside this building for 2 seconds, you will die. You'll never come out of there. We can't go get you. But here's CNN with fake news. This is CNN.
We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011, leading to the country's worst nuclear disaster.
That's amazing. Why do you always seem stood around doing nothing with their paper suits on right alongside of a nuclear meltdown? Because you can't survive that environment. And then look at all the journalists on November the 7th, 2013, inspecting the building that doesn't even exist. The person to your left is spraying a reagent. They would have died that day, or that hour even. TEPCO, we don't know if it was a hydrogen explosion. We told the public it was, though, because it's a speed game. Ah, yes. The fuel out of the pool of Reactor 3 for the 10th anniversary. First off, the reactors need 4,500 tons a minute. It's 4,500 one-ton trucks with 1,000 liters in each of them every minute. So they built this weird structure off-site, brought it in, built a frame, and laid it on the top with the cranes. I think we did have videos of allegedly somebody on the very top when they get to the center. Well, they would have died that day. You can't actually get close to the stack in the background. How are you supposed to get close to the reactor that is melted down? It was a mixed oxide fuel. Highly lethal, rather, mixed uranium plutonium oxide, MOX. So the structure was built off-site, moved there, and then allegedly got all the fuel out of the pool. And Dana needs to stop his fear-mongering. So this is officially what Reactor 4 looked like. That's Reactor 3 in the background. Again, there is no Reactor 3. It's completely destroyed, but there's a little stump that remains. Not like all the other stumps. This one is special. So they even put these things here to contain some of the big gapping holes in it. And you can see the holes up there before they put these. I'll move my big head up there. Maybe that's what I should do, is get rid of my shoulders and then expand my head and just have this big head floating around at Fukushima. So those pieces are covering that one there and that hole right there. Those two holes. Right? Because you can see how low it is. Which is them two holes right there. But they didn't cover the entire hole. I'm not sure why. Definitely weird. The reactor blew up, not the reactor building, which is the cover story they came out with. Was it a reactor building? Obviously, the reactor doesn't, and the fuel pools don't exist anymore. But they actually, the IAEA, the nuclear industry, the World Nuclear Association, all of them participated in this deception, and all the medias and universities. So I don't know what we can do about it. There's too many of them to tar and feather. The blast of Fukushima Reactor 3 was like an exploding vortex ring. Well, this is 190 feet where I'm pointing my finger. That's probably 1,900 feet or something or more. It kept going up. It ejected the reactor core and the reactor cores that were in the two fuel pools. It makes Chernobyl look like a paper towel, is how I kind of describe it. Despite the fact that Chernobyl was brutal, this is a catastrophic extinction level event. I showed you some of that earlier. This is after the tsunami washed through the site. Warning mad scientists at work. This is the cartoon they originally put out for the kids, to trick the kids into thinking, okay, here we go. We're going into the Fukushima nuclear meltdown and fix it. Like the kid, they're wearing Kevlar vest right alongside of Reactor 3. And they're drilling, of all things. They would have died that week minimum, if not that day. That's Medusa, also known as Reactor 3. Hard cases. Fukushima chief called out Mayday, Mayday when Reactor 3 exploded. Headquarters started to respond as if he said he was going out to lunch. He's like, Mayday, Mayday, like, okay, we'll talk to you in a bit. Mayday, hey, shut up. I said we'll talk to you in a bit. Another useful idiot from the media. Here I am at Reactor 3. Everything is back to normal. Yeah, I said walk over there, and then he just dropped dead. I never seen nothing like. Everybody I sent over there drops dead. Or this picture here. When the man ahead of you drops dead, pick up the fuel rod and start running. This is not even taped on their back. It's Photoshop. Yeah, IAEA was down there today. We got pictures. That's probably Photoshop on top of that. And the man ahead of you drops dead, pick up the fuel rod and start running. Alarming reality at Fukushima Daiichi. The plant is faced with new crisis. TEPCO. What the hell is a TEPCO, Dana? I don't know. I don't even like the word TEPCO. I can think of a few things like to do to TEPCO. Fortunately, it's legal in all solar systems, I hear. Plant faced with new crisis. TEPCO is clearly just hanging on. The homeless are clearly just hanging on. This is the so-called China syndrome evidence. I'm going to show you. Next three. TEPCO confirmed the steam came up from underground at Reactor 1. This is outside, of course. So the reactor core of Reactor 1 and some of the fuel pools, some of it was detonated, as I showed you at the very beginning, obviously, right? But the reactor core, as far as I can tell, went down into the earth, hit the water table, and detonated. Because water expands by the liter, I can't remember, 1,200 feet, 1,400 feet in a millisecond. So imagine this core at 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures hitting water.
The Fukushima plants say the ground under the facility is cracking and radioactive steam is escaping through the cracks. The cooling system at the plant failed after the devastating tsunami hit Japan in March, sparking a nuclear crisis. But new evidence suggests that Fukushima reactors were doomed to cripple even before the massive wave reached them. Joining me now via broadcast.
Okay, so workers say the ground around the plant is cracking and radioactive steam is coming up. What you're seeing to the right at both of these is 40 times the normal speed, or even maybe be 80. Near the reactors, there's a lot of cracks in the ground, and the steam, we have detected at 10 sieverts an hour at 6 places. So the steam at some points, let me go back a little bit for you. At some point, everything disappears. So anywhere on that site, because this is going to attach, that's radiation. It's in the right conditions and it looks like steam, right? But everything it touches becomes incredibly radioactive. So it's a visible wet plume. And so you don't need rain for fallout. It's already full of moisture. So that whole site is a lethal doses. They've abandoned the site many, many times. Good old nuclear has infiltrated the universities. Oh yeah, 80 years of infiltrating the universities. I counted the tanks. I got 750, not 1,000, by the way. 16,000 workers quit. And you would too. You would never survive it, see? And when they see their buddies dying all around them, they run. That's official Reactor 3. Media representatives walk on top of Reactor 3. It actually looks like that, see? And they're claiming they're way above that, looking down on top of that at the fuel pools. We pounced on them for that kind of lie. Oh, and they're growing food. It was banned in all these prefectures, 14 prefectures, by 55 countries. Canada, nuclear industry, screwed over everybody in Canada permanently. And after 93 days, removed the restrictions. So they couldn't ship it anywhere in Canada because it was banned everywhere else worldwide. The nuclear industry in Canada is unbelievably sadistic. Oh, we got James calling in. Hi, James. How are you, sir? You're live.
Hey, something you just touched on reminded me of something that happened. I think while you're still out. And it was like 2 weeks ago. The IAEA had a press conference in New York with the U.S. Energy Secretary. I forgot her name, that butch lady, with short hair.
Yeah, I can't remember it either for some reason. Graham Hole or something. Yeah. Graham Hole, yeah.
Anyway,
go ahead.
They did this press conference in front of, I don't know, like, I couldn't believe this. It must have been like maybe 10, 15 people in the media. They didn't show them on TV or anything. But they did this to, get this. I think the title was U.S. Energy Secretary on Addressing Negative Perception of Nuclear Energy.
Yeah.
So they're up there just going off, and everyone in the media is like, yeah, we really think it's doing great stuff. Really glad that Bill, because they mentioned Bill Gates, like this great innovator. He really cares about it. It lasted about 20 minutes. But it was the most insane thing I've ever seen. I can't believe they think they could get away with this. And the press is just sitting there giving them these softball questions like, yeah, this is the best thing you can do. We need more nuclear energy. There's avoiding anything.
It's scripted. It's actually scripted, yeah. And that's one of the things that makes me show up here 5 days a week is, like you, it freaks me out that that's able to take place. It's like, what the hell how is that even possible? Because that's what you're feeling, right?
Oh, I can only imagine if they let somebody like us walk in and ask a question. They'd be all over for them.
Game over,
they'd be like, they call security. Like, no, you can't ask.
It's controlled opposition. Controlled opposition, we call it the media, right? It's controlled opposition, what it is, yeah.
It's insane, but I just wanted to bring that up. I didn't want to forget about that, but yeah. Anyway, thanks.
No, because that is important. Yeah, you're welcome, my friend. God bless you, man.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, love you, my friend. Take care. Oh, you never know if I hung up or they hung up. I've been doing this so many years, I still can't figure it out. But that's a great point. That's an incredibly important point. Yeah, Jennifer Gramhole, Kevin Blanche, thank you. I couldn't remember her first name for some reason. The Lord knows I cover enough. But I'm not an American, right? So, is there anybody actually believes that they're to the right or at the fuel pool of the building to your left? Because they're claiming they actually are. So did Japan and the IAEA fake the fuel pool's recovery of Reactor 3 and Reactor 4 at the Fukushima nuclear site? And we have a resounding, stunning, wonderful, yeah, damn, Dana, of course they did. Well, no worries. See, the sad part of this is I only imported a little bit of documentation for this show tonight compared to what I actually got. And we're about halfway through it. I do got some sections actually where I'm going to just fly through 100 pictures at the one time coming up. So it'll go a lot quicker than the first half, hopefully, maybe, or whatever. There's nothing I can do about it. All I can do is... It was 4 hours trying to decide how to try to tell this story without making it last forever. But there's so much information that you're probably never going to see again if you don't find this, right? And so there's no harm in me doing the extra work and the extra time. So this cracks me up. There's zilch possibility they're walking out of Medusa Reactor 4. It's zero. They're not, if it's perfect inside, how come it's not perfect outside, right? There's so many, and this was extrapolated from a single picture, all of those particular types. So they faked Reactor 3 fuel pool and faked Reactor 4 fuel pools. There's 2 fuel pools in each building. There's 4 fuel pools just in those 2 buildings because you don't have a repository. It's probably around £5 million stuffed in each of those pools because they don't have a repository to put it anywhere. Common spent fuel pool was on the ground behind Reactor 4, and that was actually lower than reactor buildings, which are 190 feet high. Doomsday-like radiation release would be a global catastrophe. Oh, this is Reactor 3, where they allegedly are moving the fuel out of Reactor 3. See the truck down there? These are crazies. Pretending they're getting fuel out of a pool, and they got a live helicopter report. I mean, these guys something or are they something else, eh? They're really something. There's no limit to what they're willing to do. That shouldn't be there. Agricultural exports. Hey, let's entertain it for a second. Oh, yeah. In 2018, agricultural exports from Fukushima hit a record high. And now it's double what it was pre-Fukushima. They're growing food in this nuclear wasteland. And originally, there was like, the seniors should eat the radioactive rice to help the farmers and protect the young people. Like, if you got your hands on that rice and you were trying to sell it to them in their community, they would call the police on you and protect young people. This is some scary shit. Tokyo seniors wage an individual effort to get the elderly people to eat the rice grown in Fukushima to help the farmers struggling with rumors that their crops are radioactive and to make sure the grain isn't consumed by the younger generation because the crops are radioactive. Try making that up on your own. This is the Japan Times, one of the biggest medias on the planet. Fukushima 240-ton annual rice yield is normally sold out by February, so they want you to buy it and feed it. And there's old age homes down there had bought tons of it to murder the people that worked all their lives so they can have a future. He said his reasons for doing this is not only because he wants to help the farmer, but he wants to make sure the elderly eat as much as rice as possible to prevent the children from accidentally eating the radioactive grain. Unburned MOX fuel containing plutonium was in the explosion. Video of explosions are not allowed to be seen. Right there. Yeah, we're there. Okay, so TEPCO transfers some fuel. We came out and we pounded them day after day for like 6 days straight. And then they stopped claiming they're getting fuel out and they went silent for about 1.5 years. The entire nuclear core is injected into the environment. No, we got it in the back of the truck. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. The operator of the cripple, now I showed you pictures, you can't call it cripple, it's completely missing. It's just a little fraction of the building left. To another location for safer storage and management. It was the first removal of the fuel from the storage pools at number 1 to number 3 reactors which suffered meltdowns. Not nuclear power plant meltdowns, but meltdowns. 7 unspent fuel rod assemblies. So each assembly is around 1,800 pounds, has around... each fuel rod is 18 pounds, it's 12 feet long, and there's up to 100 of them fits in an assembly, which brings it up to 1,800 pounds, right? Were transferred Tuesday to the common spent fuel pool about 100 meters away. It's right behind Reactor 4. And we have the original pictures they released on the 10th anniversary with 700 pictures. They were all redacted. They were from a drone. And when you zoom in on the reactors and the common spent fuel pools, all but Reactor 5 were redacted. And the pump houses and the stacks were redacted. It is expected to lower the risk of the decommissioning work. Well, I mean, there is no fuel pools. Nuclear expert on the Japanese MOX, which is the Reactor 3. I think the ship is sinking beneath them. It's crazy. There really is a credibility problem. But here they are on TV. World media covered this story and come out and just ooh and ah how wonderful the Japanese technicians were. A trailer begins relocating the fuel assemblies placed in a cylinder-shaped cast, which weigh up to over 50,000 pounds each. It was completed in about 20 minutes, carried out by about a dozen workers wearing paper suits. Paper suits. Got your paper suit on? Check. Got your booties on? Check. Ready to go and die? Wait, what? Die? Look how everything rusted right away, too. Since the common spent fuel pool undergoes regular checkups required by law, it doesn't exist. It melted down, same as Reactor 1, 2, 3, and 4. The fuel transfer was suspended. Since the common spent fuel pool undergoes radioactive checkups, so they had to stop it because there was the common spent fuel pool was required for his checkup, allegedly. See? What a crazy. Another claiming 559 spent and unspent fuel assemblies, number 3 unit storage pool, which is a fuel pool. Now I started to show you a video. That's what these are. These are screen captures from the video. We're just going to shoot through them because that's always fun. Max fuel probably caused a nuclear explosion in the fuel pool, which is the pool they're claiming they're getting it out of. So this is Reactor 3. You can see the truck right here. So they're going to start slowly. They only crawl along at about 1 mile per hour or something. And the helicopter is feeding it live to the world. These are madmen. Well, they're not really men, I guess, but these are crazies. Nuclear physicists suspected number 3 spent fuel rods are spread all over the area. You can never return to it. Oh, no, we got this. We got universities, all the media, and the government's on our side. We can fake anything. What are you going to do next? Pretend they're on Mars? Playing chess? Most of the fallout from MOX fuel will drop on the U.S. Most of the plutonium containing MOX fuel will drop on the U.S. unless strong winds take it everywhere else. And it did, of course, right? That's only a couple of days. After 16 days, it covers the whole planet. There they are, the superheroes. Actually, all of those guys are now Spider-Man and the Hulk and superheroes. Simulation from the government showed a radioactive plume of Krypton 85 over Tokyo when number 3 MOX exploded. Yeah, it was 450,000 cubic meter of the air in Guma, which is 20 kilometers away. You got to give him credit for being so sadistic and twisted, and actually willing to go and do something like that. Now I remember there was some discrepancies in these pictures, and one of the vehicles, but I can't remember what it was anymore. Because this is he's making a turn. The whole world holds its breath. They're making a turn. They're gonna back it into the common spent fuel pool, Dana. Which is right here, actually. And I can show you pictures, hopefully, before this is over, of the common spent fuel pool. Let me go back. The fuel removal of the Reactor 3 unit was originally scheduled for 2014. It was pushed back multiple times as high levels of radiation caused delays. Retrieval of the melted fuel is dripped down in the containment vessel. Again, I already showed you an absurd amount of Reactor 3. Melted fuel, meltdowns. So this is April 2019. The first batch of the Fukushima nuclear power plant fuel transferred to a storage facility has transferred the first portion of the fuel from the damaged reactor's fuel storage pool to a nearby facility. The common spent fuel pool doesn't exist. Let me go back. Let me come over here. Just give me a second. See if I can find those pictures. Because I don't really know what's what anymore. Let's have a... The problem with this whole story is you can't rush it, per se, right? You gotta... If you're talking about it, you probably should include it. I know I'm going to be sorry, but too late. I'm gullible enough to go ahead and do the work. Might as well. It's so easy to do what I'm doing, right? That's Reactor 2, but look at everything. Now you can see the pixelation. This is Reactor 3. Over there is the top of Reactor 4. These were released last year. It's very confusing because everything is pixelated. So it's a drone shot, right? And when you zoom in on it, there was 2 of these pictures that weren't pixelated, thank goodness. But then all of a sudden everything, because you can see the front of it, which is, I zoomed in because it's taken from a drone. So the drone is way up. Hang on, the drone is way up in the air. So when you get close to the reactors, I was zooming in and all of a sudden, I was like, that's normal. And then what the hell is that? What the hell is this? Nobody's ever, besides myself, come out with these pictures. And everything is pixelated. So what? They released 736. I actually done a presentation. It's in my playlist on these pictures. And I backed up with a whole bunch of data. So this is behind it. Up there in the corner is the common spent fuel pool, where they allegedly transferred the fuel. And they went through a lot of trouble not to say that word, common spent fuel pool. So why is the entire area and the common spent fuel pool building pixelated out? That's a pretty interesting question, I would hope. Up in the top of it, you can see transport truck containers that give you some kind of scale of size, because they pile up from all the water, right? So why did they pixelate the common spent fuel pool? And let me shoot through these, because you can see, you can physically see the pixelation, right? You see that? The reactors and the common spent fuel pool are pixelated. They released them on the 10th anniversary. It's such a strange thing to do after a decade. So they were trying to warn you. This is basically what was going on there. And I'm just seeing if we move towards Reactor 5 and 6 and the cast storage. Again, this is the common spent fuel pool on the back side with the drone. So each of these pictures you have to zoom in to get this. And you're like, what the hell? It was really, I remember it was surreal. I downloaded all the pictures and I was clicking through them like you would, because they were from a drone, right? And then I double clicked and I zoomed in, and then I expanded it, and I was like, holy shit, everything is redacted. And I thought it might have been just a single picture. When I went back and started doing it to every picture, I was like, oh my goodness. Naughty nuclear industry. Nuclear scientists, yeah, no, we can't show that. No, can't show Reactor 3 or around Reactor 3. But you do show some of Reactor 2. They pixelated everything in front of it. And Reactor 1, look at that. They're supposed to move north to the... I'm just trying to get... This is a drone shot where you're not zoomed in, but you can see it's pixelated on the big screen, hopefully. Right, now I'm zooming in. Because you got to realize this was in real time for me. I'm like zoom, picture, zoom, screen capture. Like, what the hell am I looking at? What the hell is going on here? And there's not that many more of these. And in between the buildings are all pixelated, because that's where it blew the fuel rods and the reactor cores and the fuel pools out, see? And up in the corner is the common spent fuel pool. So the tsunami came flying through. That's in a dip. So it got a huge amount of water. It's nowhere near as tall as the reactor buildings. So they lost at least 10 million pounds out of the common spent fuel pool, which took reactor cores from all around the 6 reactors on site. Super important pictures. I'm looking for, oh, we go back, we're on our way there now. That's the dry cache storage. And see, it did like a bowl around it, and the ocean is right here. You can imagine the ocean ran through it and then out. So a lot of these cache washed away. Some of them did stay. You see the tank up there? Look at the destruction of the tank. Originally, when I used to cover the tank, not these, years before these pictures showed up, people used to attack me and say it wasn't Fukushima's site. That's the dry cache storage. It's going to take us over to reactor 5 and 6. Look at the damage from the torque, eh? Amazing. And that's, again, the dry cache storage, which is water levels. So the water ran all the way around it and through it, which means who knows how many casts they lost into the ocean. Now, up here is reactor 5 is the closest one. Reactor 6 is the farthest one. And other buildings on this side of it are the pump houses. So why is the entire pump house and of reactor 6, which is that one up there, and the pump house is up here, why is that redacted? Why did they censor those pictures? And again, you had to zoom in, because the drone shot, it looks normal. And when you zoom in, you're like, what the hell is going on? And nobody's ever covered this. I'm the only person I know of that actually covered these pictures. And I would imagine the majority, again, like from the drone shot, everything looks normal, see? So the original shots, when you zoom in, you're like, wow. I remember barely being able to sleep that night saying, I'm going to do a show tomorrow night on these pictures. Because that was amazing. Naughty nuclear. Nuclear, some kind of badass. That's the common spent fuel pool, and reactors out in front of it towards the ocean. Why is the common spent fuel pool redacted? Huh? Why are they claiming that it looks like this in 2013? TEPCO transfers some fuels from the Fukushima No. 3 reactor pool. 7 unspent fuel rod assemblies were transferred to the common spent fuel pool. And I showed you the common spent fuel pool. Why would you redact the entire facility for it? So this was a theory. You can watch the video if you want to. More theory on Fukushima nuclear reactor explosion. So this is reactor 3. Which is the center building is reactor 3, I think. Let me get my Gert Big Head out of there and we'll get after it. You can see the fireball, which is really unusual picture, that one right there. And then the detonation, like a nuclear explosion. It ejected the reactor core and the fuel pools out of the buildings. This was a complete loss of the entire 40-year inventory being ejected out of the buildings. And watch it fall back down. This explosion was felt 25 miles away by a Reuters reporter, I believe. Or no, AP, Associate Press reporter. That's the reactor core falling back to Earth, and this would immediately catch fire when it lands back on Earth, because it no longer has water to protect it. But that's a serious detonation. The building coming up in the center is 190 feet high. The very top of the plume is the fuel pool. Amazing. By the way, inhaling particles increases your radiation exposure by a factor of 1 trillion. Pulsing almost at the speed of light every second. Fukushima nuclear plume covered most of North America. This was early stuff. Let's keep going here. Yeah, so they brought in the world's biggest cement truck to trick you and manipulate you into thinking, same as the reason they built that, to trick you and manipulate you. There is no fuel pool. And we got a poll tonight that reflects, this is why we're basically telling the story here tonight. Does anybody believe there's a fuel pool, an invisible fuel pool, at the top of that building? We have 56 votes. Did Japan and the International Atomic Energy Agency faked the fuel pool recovery of Reactor 3 and Reactor 4 at the Fukushima disease factory? These buildings, like I say, don't physically touch each other. The reactor is completely missing, and all you got is a frame, and they're putting panels around it, and then pretending. And then they pretend, they go into an American reactor and pretend that they're at Japan. That's, to me, that's like a wow stuff, right? Yeah, we moved through almost all of it. Just a bit more to go. A few more minutes, probably. That's pretty awesome because I work like a dog all day to put it together. No big deal. So they put these panels on it that are gravity. And then pretend that everything looks hunky-dory. Have a nice cancer and heart problems, and liver problems, and lung problems. And screw you. We're the nuclear industry. We're more important than all the humans and all the species. And so they made up this fable to cover up the awful thing they've done to our planet. This is an extinction level event. That's why you see me censored. It's because I provide you an absurd, overwhelming, an absolutely overwhelming amount of documentation. Of nothing but the truth. No nonsense. Okay, a few jokes here and there, but no nonsense. No. I'm trying to make sure that there's no wiggle room for the industry to say, no, it's right there, look. Because you come from it from so many different angles. I mean, there's the alleged fuel pools, right? And inside of that, they want you to believe it looks like the building to the right. You can't build a new fuel pool there and say it's the old fuel pool, but you can't build it anyway because it's lethal doses. So they stripped the building all the way down to the ground almost, and then built a great big fable just to mess with you, and that's not acceptable. Deceit and lies and dishonesty is not acceptable. And I'll show you why. Just show you 5 pictures of why this matters. Because for 6 years, I went on the ocean for 4 to 5 months a year, and the species to your left are permanently exterminated. They're permanently gone. They didn't recover. They never came back. So the question I ask, is nuclear more important than all of those species? What's better, nuclear or all those species? That's the only question you need to ask. and I paid a terrible price for doing these research. I was attacked constantly because I went out and took pictures and documented the coastline for 3 or 4 or 5 months at a time without coming home. And I was abandoned many times, ran out of money many times, but I have a pension, so you'd be stuck in the middle of nowhere waiting for your pension to come in so you can get fuel and groceries and get some videos published, and hopefully people would chip in, and they did. But there was quite a few times where I was stuck in the middle of the coastline and I couldn't even put fuel in the boat. I didn't know how to quit. I didn't know how to give up. I didn't know how. Once I seen the damage, I realized that I might never get another opportunity to go up and document it. And so I felt that I had to sacrifice it all, and I had to do it year after year because hopefully the species would recover, but I knew deep down inside it couldn't. Because like if I plow in a healthy coastline, the species from both sides and under the low tide line would just fill up the gap in a couple of months. They didn't recover, they didn't come back. And now we see this started cascade into birds and whales and all the other species. So I'm heartbroken. Every time I see these pictures, I'm heartbroken because I can't deny it. I went and done it. I seen it every day, and I can't switch that off. I'm not a bad person for going out and doing that. I can't close my eyes and not see that. Right? It's a terrible thing to experience each day, and I show up each day full of documentation saying, look, here's another day of different media from all around the world, in each paragraph telling you multiple lies about nuclear. That's never supposed to happen, not even a single day, let alone day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year doing this. And we can't have a future at that pace, right? They're criminals. That's what they are, see? And so there's no reason not to hold them accountable. These are criminals. The media and the universities have been infiltrated and taken over by this disgusting nuclear industry. And it's our watch and it's our obligation. We're obligated under our Bill of Rights, our constitutions, the Magna Cartas, you name it, or the doctrines. Most doctrines worldwide are based upon those three. It is your obligation. You're obligated. Your job is not to sit back and say, I can't do nothing. And I know it's a hopeless feeling, but remember, I started off just like you, where I was like, well, how do I tell this story and how do I sustain it? Because this is not going to be easy. You're going up against a monolithic, genocidal, omnicidal industry. And if you go public, they're coming for you, Dana. And I said, yeah. And if I don't go public, then people won't be able to trust me 100%. And but if I'm, I take it to a different level where I gathered up so much documentation that I can't be denied the truth, see? And I'm doing what I can. How about you? Give us a thumbs up, costs us little and goes a long way. And it doesn't even smell like the ocean anymore is a great point, actually. Well, there we go. We pulled it off. It's over 600, almost 700 clicks, I think, tonight. And that's just a fraction of the material I got. But again, we got to have the conversation. You can't have it without, because you took down my site last year, all this documentation that I already provided you has disappeared. And so I have to make these videos once in a while to remind the world, the nuclear industry too, that what they're doing is a mistake to pretend like this. You're destroying everybody's futures, and that's not acceptable. You don't have a right. You're a criminal for doing it. And that's how the world is seeing you and will see you. And this is why you're floundering as an industry, because of your endless corruption and deceit and dishonesty. And your contempt for all species. Your absolute, unbelievable contempt that you are more worthy of this planet than the billions and the millions of species. That's intolerable that people like you can exist. And I will not rest until you're held accountable and disposed of and held to account. And you can laugh at me all you want, but I can guarantee you that policymakers and investors and people that make the decisions have watched my material and understand what the truth is. They don't need to watch it twice. They just need to watch it once. And particularly videos like this. You can't close your eyes and forget everything I showed you tonight. And anybody who comes out and denies the documentation that I provided, they're not lying to themselves, they're just evil criminals and should be held accountable. And at some point in the very near future, that is going to happen. You have ruined the planet Earth. And it's time to meet your makers, and we're coming for you, the nuclear industry. We're not going to sit in silence, and I'm living proof of that. How did our poll go tonight? Let's close down the poll, I guess. We made it. We got 56 votes, no doubt. Did Japan and the International Atomic Energy Agency, the World Nuclear Associations, etc., fake the fuel pool recoveries of Reactor 3 and Reactor 4 at the Fukushima nuclear site? A stunning 96% of the people said, yeah, that's exactly what happened. And the ones that said it didn't are the industry itself. God bless everybody and hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is Conference of Parties, day, whatever it is. I got all kinds of juicy stuff for that. Pretty tired. It's been such a long day just thinking this one through. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Hugs everybody. Yeah, that was pretty good. How long was the show tonight? Let me see what we got happening here. Less than 2 hours. Excellent. But that's what I mean. You can't, there's no shortcuts when you're trying to tell the truth. You're not doing anybody a favor by going shorting it up. It is what it's going to be. The truth demands that you take your time and that you don't make any simple mistakes that will confuse people that are trying to understand it, right? We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Have a great night. Great day tomorrow. We'll see everybody for the next show, which is Conference of Parties 27 updates. And I got some amazing stuff over the weekend for that. And I'm sure more by the night and tomorrow. Take care, folks.